This episode is brought to you by SureTest. Transform and revolutionize your health system's application testing process with SureTest's managed test automation solution, SureManage. Eliminate 80% or more of your manual testing activities, reducing errors and reclaiming thousands of hours for your staff to focus on more rewarding, strategic projects. Continuous testing is critical, and getting it right saves lives. Discover the future of healthcare IT automation with SureTest. Visit thisweekhealth.com/SureTest today and elevate your healthcare system's performance. Hi, I'm Sarah Richardson, former CIO and president of the 229 Executive Development Community. Welcome to Flourish, where we delve into captivating career origin stories and spark conversations that inspire, inform, and foster community. Join us as we explore the journeys that have shaped successful professionals and uncover the insights that can help you thrive in your career path. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Flourish, the podcast where we explore stories of growth, resilience, and personal transformation. I'm Sarah Richardson, and today we're joined by a truly inspiring guest, Michelle Moffitt. Michelle is an executive coach, speaker, and author who has recently published her powerful new book, Cracked Open, A Journey to Becoming a Resilient and Independent Woman. In her book, Michelle shares deeply personal journey of overcoming challenges, finding strength, and flourishing through adversity. Her story resonates with anyone looking to embrace resilience and build a life rooted in authenticity and purpose. Today, we're going to explore her insights on personal growth, leadership, and the power of embracing vulnerability. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
I'm so happy you're here because Cracked Open has really opened up such a panacea of conversations that maybe you weren't expecting. So let's start at the beginning.
Sure.
And have you share a bit about your personal journey and what led you to write Cracked Open?
Sure. I'll get the bits and pieces out there. So was raised in a very progressive home. Dad was a big feminist and had a couple of traumas happen to me during the college years, which led my body and my brain to look for safety. And safety meant I had all the answers on how to live, that somebody would tell me what I needed to do to keep myself safe. And I took a really hard right turn and landed myself in the fundamental high control church and in a really controlling system, married to a narcissist for 25 years. And so as I started piecing through this and needing to find some answers and getting help, I found myself needing to get out. And it was quite a journey trying to get out of a system of high control.
And the theme of resilience runs throughout your book. How do you personally define resilience?
Great question. I think resilience is really this place of falling down and getting back up and falling down and getting back up, getting out of bed every day, knowing that, that you have within you what you need to survive, and not just to survive, but to flourish, right? In those phases.
It's hard though for people to keep falling down and keep getting back up. You've got to have the right support mechanisms around you. And so when a person listening hears, I got to fall down, I got to get up, what do they do when that last fall is too hard to get up and you're just sitting there in the dirt, or you're a kid and you'd be like, I don't want to get up right now. How do people find that space inside of them that allows them to really find the power to get up again?
Yeah, to be honest, in that space is really hard. It is really hard. And I think a lot of women struggle in that space. I think the small steps of knowing what your baseline is, of going, okay, here I am today. Am I making 2% difference? Am I moving that meter 2% every day? But it also entails getting a great support system, having people around you that believe you, that will walk with you, that will help you, that will cheer you on. We are not meant to do this life alone.
Share with us the most challenging part of writing something that is so personal and so transformative.
At the beginning, writing memoir, you are reliving the story again. And so heading back into that space, your whole body feels what's going on. Your emotions are raw. One of the most impactful parts of it and difficult parts is you're coming out, right? You're letting the world see this really vulnerable part of you. And so I think after a while, the story was just the story. It's not a identifier for who I am. And so, but that was a huge leap to get to in that space of going, is this like, this is all that I am? I'm this story, I'm this broken person, or is it something I can look at and go, okay, that happened, and now what?
And in the book, you also talk about the importance of embracing vulnerability. Why do you believe that vulnerability is such an essential aspect of personal growth?
Well, we need to be honest with ourselves, right? I think a lot of times we put on these plastic faces, which I did in the system I was a part of. I was told to show up perfectly and make sure my children were perfect, and not being really honest with who I was, where I was. I think I had no idea with really what my gift sets were, where I needed growth. And so it's just part of being human. We are human beings, not human doings.
One of the other aspects you share in Cracked Open is the journey to becoming independent. So, what advice would you give to others who are struggling to take that step and may not realize what their personal gifts or abilities are that need to be brought forward?
Yeah, I say independence is twofold. It's what you do inwardly and what you do outwardly. The outward part is to be able to have those places that you can be independent, having your own bank account, having a budget of money that you can spend freely for yourself, having things that you enjoy doing for yourself instead of doing all the time for others. The independent part inside is really understanding who you are and understanding what your gift set is and being able to bring that to the world is a huge part of moving forward. We need you to show up for who you are. We don't need you to show up for how somebody else is.
I'd love for you to share a specific moment from the book where you felt the most cracked open and how you moved forward from that point.
Yeah. I was having a really difficult time in the system I was a part of. As a woman, I wasn't allowed to lead. I wasn't allowed to make final decisions in my house. I was part of a system which used me, but gave me very little in return. And so I worked for free or volunteered, voluntold maybe. And then I was dealing with a husband who's incredibly narcissistic and abusive at home. And so I was reaching out to the leaders of the system of this church and asking for a lifeline. And I'm sitting in front of them explaining what has happened in my marriage for the last 25 years, asking for help because my husband was incredibly sick and harmful to me and my children. And I look up expecting a lifeline, and they say, "We don't believe you." And basically telling me I need to sit down and shut up and just let this system roll. And so that was really a place that challenged me mentally because I was like, I thought these people were here to help me. These are people that I have trusted. These are people I've been friends with for over 10 years. And what is going on here? I had shared really vulnerable things of my own life, of my own marriage with them, and they were not telling me we're going to give you help. They were doing the exact opposite. And so that was a really huge piece of cracking me open of going, okay, this belief system I've sat in is wrong. And I need to change my mind about what's going on here. And I think the other part that was really a huge hard part cracking under pressure was having to make this decision by myself. Nobody else was going to make a decision for me if I was going to leave the system. Nobody else was making the decision for me if I was going to get a divorce. Those decisions were mine alone to make. And that was really difficult.
And let's add to the fact that you had 5 children in the mix as well. It wasn't like it was, hey, what's Michelle going to do when she's going to make the break? And I have conversations with people all the time, men and women, who may be like situationally sort of trapped to a degree, whether
Right.
that's in jobs or companies or financial restrictions or all these different pieces. It's sometimes very sobering to hear people say, well, I just have to stay at this job for 2 or 3 more years because I've got to put this last kid through college or finish paying off the mortgage, or I can deal with all these other parameters. And you have done a ton now with coaching. And
Mhm.
so when you hear stories from people that are trapped in scenarios, how have your personal experience shaped your approach to guiding others who need to get out of where they are?
Yeah, I get to do what I love. I get to help other people move forward in life and create a better future for themselves. I feel like I was stuck for 25 years and didn't realize that this was not helpful. It's the Mary Oliver, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? Right. And recognizing that there's limits on who we are and how our days go by. And so my personal story really informs what I do as an executive coach, as a therapist as well, in that space of how do we move forward? How do we take steps? We are never, ever stuck. And recognizing that piece is the first part. I can change my mind. I can do something different.
What are some of those common challenges that you see leaders facing today when it comes to resilience and authenticity?
The first one is they're human doings instead of human beings, and forgetting that they are human beings first, that they bring their whole selves to work. I think one of the hard parts in that place is really, what does authenticity mean? So when I think of authenticity, the first thing that comes to my mind is I have to tell you everything about myself. My life is an open book. And a lot of times we're trained in that space of like, if I'm authentic, then I've got to share everything. And that's just oversharing. That's not real authenticity. Authenticity means I'm going to be smart about where I'm at. I might share a tidbit about my life so you know what's going on to some degree, or that I recognize I'm emotional or any of those things, but I don't need to overshare. But it doesn't mean I'm lying if I'm not telling all of this stuff. So I think leaders really struggle in that space of knowing how much to share, knowing how much not to share, to make them authentic, to help their people know that they have struggles too. And we know the ROI changes. There's all the data out there when we show up in as whole people at work, when we recognize the mental, emotional, social, intelligent people that we are.
What are some of the best ways that a leader can bring that culture into the workplace, having teams understand vulnerability, resilience, authenticity within the constructs of appropriate either emotional intelligence or the ability to read rooms and read groups most appropriately?
Yeah. One of the things is just, I love this practice that Brene Brown has of asking everybody how they're doing with 2 words, right? And so just opening up, okay, I'm happily content today, or whatever it is, to be able to bring emotion into this space. The other thing is to really create spaces of psychological safety for people to be able to be honest with what's going on in their lives, or to show up without fear of retribution if they don't perform, being able to step into spaces that offer ERGs for people to be able to learn more about being holistic people. When we're working 60 plus hours a week, it's really difficult to step back and go, what emotion am I feeling right now? We're just in this grind. And so being able to foster spaces where that's appropriate and helpful is huge.
I remember having a conversation not too terribly long ago with a colleague in general in the industry. And I said, "How are you?" And simple, just the question. And they said, "I don't know how to answer the question." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Nobody's asked me in a very long time." And I was like, dang, that
Dang.
responsibility of just, hey, how are you? And
Yeah.
not just like the casual passing by, but really getting a sense for the energy that you can feel from people or how they're showing up in a different space. I had somebody ask me that recently, and we were in a meeting, and I said, "I'm good." I'm like, time zone deficiency. It's this 3 hour gap. I'm like, I don't really know what time it is. So if I seem a little out of it, it's probably because I am.
Even to that point, Sarah, it's like, how are you? And being able to have the pause and go, what is this person actually asking me? And being able to say, oh, I can be honest with this person, or I can give them this much, or they're just saying that in a friendly manner, and I just need to say, I'm fine. Right. But being able to pause and go, actually, how am I? Very
Asking that reciprocal question to yourself, and you go, gosh, did I get enough sleep? How am I handling different spaces? Because someone else is recognizing it,
yeah.
there's a reason for it or realizing it. But I love having that open dialogue. You do also talk about the difference between surviving and thriving. What does it mean for someone to truly flourish in this conversation? And how
Mhm.
do they make that transition from that day-to-day checklist to actually experiencing a given day in any moment?
One of the very first things I have my clients do is get out an emotion wheel to recognize that they are emotional beings. And so they'll start pausing during the day. You can set a reminder on your phone to move into a space of like, actually, how am I feeling? What's the word that goes with that? And do I want to do anything with that? Does that go anywhere? Or is it just information for me to recognize I'm a whole person? I think when you're in a situation that it has been really toxic and you're coming out, recognizing that is going to be really hard. Going, it's okay, that a lot of kindness to yourself in that space of saying, I will get through this. But when you start changing your mind about toxic systems or workplace or feeling stuck or any of these things, it creates this dissonance within your body. It's very uncomfortable. And being able to sit in that and say, no, this is the right way that I want to go. But it also makes you feel wobbly. And so I like coming out for me of the system, I had to create a whole new belief system. I had to check with myself and go, do I really believe that I'm less than a man? Do I really believe that I don't have the ability to lead. And so going, no, I don't think that's right. And so being able to go, okay, I got to change this whole belief system, which actually is really uncomfortable. And you will be wobbly for a while. And so there's kindness in that space.
I love that you talked about the wobbly space, or what I would call the pervasive sense of ickiness. There's a level of dissonance or discomfort you'll feel. And usually it's in that core of your body. And it's like, gosh, sometimes that's a good ickiness, like, oh, I'm trying a new thing on for work and it's hard, but I'm grateful that I'm stretching. And there's moments of like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing these things if XYZ isn't
Yeah.
occurring as intended? And I'm grateful that you mentioned that, like, sort of just that feeling that you know
Yeah.
that needs
Yeah.
to be addressed. That's about mindset too. And so, what
Hmm.
role does mindset play in building resilience, and how can people like nurture that in their life every day?
The most recent example is I struggle with anxiety, like out of control, monkey mind, my sonar in my brain is going off. What can I stress about now? Oh, there's one blip. Okay, there's another. And so it affects my sleep. And so I finally gotten a sleep coach and really setting my mindset at night of going, what am I worried about? I verbalize to my husband, like, what am I worried about? And how do I solve that right now? And honestly, it's helped me sleep. It's created places of gratitude. There's a new study out that Adam Grant has done around giving. Actually, when we're helping others, is actually creating more happiness in ourselves and more motivation than actually gratitude does now. So when I recognize what did I do to serve someone else today too, and how did I smile at somebody, those places set your mindset. When I was still in that like not thriving place, I set my reminders on my phone, and every hour I had some sort of motivational quote or something I would tell myself to come up about myself, like that I'm strong and capable, that I can do this, that one step at a time. And so every hour, those little reminders were setting my mind towards something different.
It's pretty amazing when I'm on a lot of airplanes, a lot of airports, a lot of public transportation, when you recognize somebody sitting next to you or that needs help with their bag or has a kid with a stroller and just all these different pieces, and you offer to help. It's pretty amazing just how the energy changes around you and them. Because most people just need a smile or kindness in a given moment. And if you're in a place in that day where you have it to freely give, or you're struggling and you know that helping someone else will make you feel better, it's pretty incredible the impact that it has even around you. Closed spaces, people pay attention.
Yes. Instead of doing this, like, like what's going on and what is just one small thing I can do to help someone else? It benefits me as well. And not tit for tat, really to help somebody else in those spaces.
You said monkey mind, and is that a Michelle term or is that something you have found for your research? And I ask because I always say carnival brain, and they probably are very similar, but is monkey mind just something that you call it?
That's a statement that comes out of the Enneagram training.
Okay.
And so it's like whack-a-mole. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things going on. So the carnival, I like that.
Yeah, I love it. I actually borrowed that from one of my other friends. She says it. She's like, yep, carnival brain time. And all you know is just sort of pay attention, just sort of watch the action and figure
It's the
out.
squirrel, squirrel, squirrel,
It's the
squirrel.
squirrel, it's the squirrel moments. So then how do you stay grounded in your own life, especially when you face new challenges? You've overcome a lot, but when monkey mind is in full force, like how are you recentering?
Super fair question coming out there and recognizing that my monkey mind is a place of growth. And so I'm not going to be mean to myself when that kicks in because it's just part of who I am specifically, but also going, okay, I need to work through this and ground myself. And so breathing is a huge tool to use. I do a lot of box breathing and finding balance in my life. The monkey mind, I have very specific ways that I try to organize my time because I know that I'll just squirrel the day away.
It is very easy to just move from thing to thing all the time because we're constantly surrounded by reminders and alerts and just demands
Yeah.
for ourselves and our time. When a reader finishes Cracked Open, what do you want their biggest takeaway to be?
Oh, that they're never stuck, that they can change their mind.
How has sharing your story impacted not just you personally and professionally since the book release, but areas or avenues of outreach that maybe you weren't expecting that have really found a place to resonate with your story?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing has been able to say, this is my story. I am coming out with what was abuse and places that I'm not embarrassed that I was in those spaces, but I'm like, how in the world did I end up there? but that was a huge piece of being able to say, that is my story. And I've learned these things out of it. And now I can move on. I'm surprised by some of the places that it's landed because my story has a part about religion in it. But it also heads into these places of male dominance, patriarchy that are uh, everywhere. And so I've been surprised that it's landed in family law, it's landed in courts, it's landed in wealth management, because women have notoriously been suppressed and oppressed in those spaces. And so women are coming out of divorces not knowing how to handle a checkbook. And so really helping the lawyers, the judges, those places being able to say, hey, these women aren't stupid. This has just been the system that they've been part of.
And what's next for you? What do you want to have happen personally, professionally, as both a coach, an author, a wife, a mother, a friend? You've got so many different hats you wear. And what do you want to do next?
I really love my life right now. I think if I can continue this for a long time, that would be really great. I love meeting with women specifically, working out of places that they're stuck, working towards what's next. I've got a therapy practice that I do that as well. I have an amazing partner. We love to travel. We love going to sports games. I've got really amazing kids that have really made a great transition through all of this. They have the same story. They see it differently sometimes, but that's awesome. Taking this on the road a lot, doing workshops, teaching up front, speaking around what does this actually mean? It's very relevant to our world right now. I would say I was part of a triple patriarchy. So I was married to a narcissist, wasn't allowed to make decisions, was part of a patriarchal system. And then our greater culture is also in that. So really trying to create a movement that we can change the tide for women here.
A blueprint to a degree for anybody who may feel like they are stuck in a space or need to really evaluate and understand the options available to them so they don't feel quite as powerless, and being able to reach
Yes.
out to you and to others to say, hey, my first maybe step is that I'm recognizing that I want something different for myself. And you're to a degree giving them permission to be able to do that. And it's funny how we may not give ourselves permission all the time to do the things we know are right for us. But when someone else is illustrating the ability that it can be done, creates a little bit of bravery in those next and first steps for many people.
Yeah. And Sarah, I think in that place of giving yourself permission, what is keeping you back from giving yourself permission? Is it that you don't believe you're worth it? Is there a shame message going on there? I speak to that so much. And I feel like people just don't value themselves enough, right? To think that they can do something different.
Yep. And being able to just take time to reflect and realize that might be part of the equation.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you for sharing this journey with us. I would love to ask you a few questions, a little more lighthearted, but also
Okay.
a deeper insight into all of the amazing aspects of Michelle. Are you ready for speed round?
Let's go.
All right. If you could have dinner with any inspirational figure, who would it be?
Ooh, Michelle Obama.
What's the first question for Michelle Obama?
I loved her books. I love her honesty. I love all the things that she comes. I just want to be her friend.
I just want to hang out and chat.
Well, yeah, and I think also, how do you find the strength and resilience to walk through what you've been through and the hecklers and the haters and right? She's just got such a fabulous sense of self.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
When it's warmer in Seattle, we live right on Lake Union, and I love to go get in the lake because it's cold and it's great for my joints.
So even in the middle of summer, that water is not exactly an
No,
invite
it's
there.
not bath water.
Go in there and get like the cold plunge shock
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
I love it. What, other than your own, what book have you recently read that really resonated with you?
I'm going to share two. One is Elise Loenin's On Our Best Behavior, and she talks about the 7 deadly sins for women. It's fabulous. And then I just finished The Tell, and it's a story around a woman having repressed memories come out through MDMA, and fascinating on memory and her story of being honest with herself. So
Excellent. And then what's a mantra or phrase that you live by?
for sure is know better, do better.
I like that one. Again, Michelle, thank you for joining us on Flourish today and the journey truly to how you decided to write Cracked Open and really share with others how to be resilient and independent and create the life that you want and have earned the right to pursue.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning into Flourish, where we unearth the hidden gems of career journeys illuminating paths to success and fulfillment. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with your peers and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope these stories catalyze inspiration within you, propelling you forward in your own career odyssey. Stay connected, stay curious, and keep flourishing.